Hey, what's up guys, CodeForge here, welcome in the next video. Today I would like to show you how to get rid of the cross-origin resource sharing error. So if you are a web developer or you want to become one, you probably should know what is this CORS thing. This error appears when you want to consume a RESTful API, the endpoints exposed by the web service, from your web application developed in, for example, Angular, React, or Vue. Basically, every web application that uses XML, HTTP, request object, or fetch API. On the screen, you can find my Angular application that works on the localhost port 4200. In the console, we can find the error itself. We can see that our request has been blocked. We can also find that I was trying to make a GET request on the localhost port 8080/items, and this is basically the endpoint exposed by the Java Spring Boot web application which is working on my PC. Let's check out the Angular code in the first place, so we will see how the request is being sent. Okay, so we are in the Angular application right now. And over here we can see the item service that I have created. And the first thing we are doing is that we are injecting the HTTP client to make some requests. And we have two methods, one for retrieving collection of item details and the second one for retrieving the specific item. In the web browser we have seen the result only of the first one. And we can see that we are simply executing the GET request on the service URL provided over here, and we want to call the specific items endpoint. Let's go to the item components to see the usage of the getItems method. Over here in the first place, we are injecting the item service in the constructor, and thanks to that, in the ng-on-init lifecycle method, we are able to use this item service, so we are calling the getItems method, which one should return the collection of items, and after that we are subscribing to the result of this method, and in the provided callback function or arrow function we are assigning the returned items to the items collection in our class. So here everything is good, we don't have to make any changes in our front-end application, but the problem lies in our backend, so let's quickly jump to the web service. Here is our backend which we have developed in one of the videos. It is the one-to-many web service that exposes the endpoints for the cards and for the items. We are taking a look specifically on the item controller, because from the front-end application we wanted to retrieve the collection of all items. And we know that our request has been blocked by this CORS policy. And if we want to expose one specific endpoint, in our case it is this one which is called getItems, we can simply say cross-origin under our getMapping annotation, and inside between the parentheses we can set the origins attribute. In our case it will be set to HTTP, and our application is working on the localhost port 4200. So this is the URL on which our front-end application is working. And we have to specify the port because we are working in the development environment, and our Angular application is running on the live development server. In the case when our front-end application is already deployed on some web server, we don't have to specify the port, so in this case we can get rid of this, because our application will be served by the web server. But in our case, since we are working in the development environment, we need the port. Okay, so let's restart the application and we will try to make a request again. So I have restarted the web server and we are back in the web browser. We can refresh the page and now we can see that error is gone. Let's add some test data using the Swagger UI of our backend web service. So we want to open the item controller, and over here we want to use the add item endpoint. We want to hit try it out, and we will need only the serial number, and it will be S1, S2, and one more S3. And also let's make a small change in the Angular application. Over here, I would like to call another endpoint just to show you that the one with the cross-origin annotation is working. So let's add the call of the second method in the ng-on-init. So we want to get specific item by ID. And also we'll need the object that can be displayed in the HTML. So we'll add it over here. So now we can save it, and we'll go to the item component HTML, and over here we'll uncomment this part. So this basically will parse our JSON using the JSON pipe, and we will be able to display the objects into the web browser. So we can save it and we can go back to the web browser. And over here we can see that our endpoint annotated with the cross-origin annotation is working because we are able to retrieve collection of items. In the case of the second endpoint, which is not annotated with the cross-origin annotation, we are getting an error and the default object is being displayed. So let's go back to the web service and we'll explore another way of configuring the CORS. With this approach, if you would like to expose right now also the second endpoint, which will allow us to retrieve the specific item, we have to copy this line over here and repeat it also over here. And now let's say we also want to do it for the another, for example, for deleting the items, which is over here, and we have to do it again. There is a better way of doing it, so we can get rid of those cross-origin annotations from here and also from here, and we can put it on the class level. So we can allow this specific origin for entire controller. Before the restart of the application, I would like to mention a few things. It is also possible to configure more than one origin. And to do it, we can wrap it into the curly braces, and after the comma, we can specify another origin. So let's copy it, let's paste it over here, and we'll change, let's say, the port to 1. And thanks to that, both origins will be able to make a call to our endpoints. It is also possible to define which methods are allowed, and by methods I mean the HTTP methods. And we can do it this way. So we want to say methods over here, and between the curly braces we can specify the request method get. So right now our item controller will accept only the get requests. And if we want to also accept post request, we can use comma and say request method post, and the post request will be also accepted. But we don't need this stuff right now, so we can get rid of it. We'll remove this and this. Now we will restart our application. We are back in the web browser. I have restarted the web service, and also I have added again 3 items to our items collection. And now let's refresh our web browser. Okay, we don't have errors anymore, and also the specific item has been retrieved from the database. So our cross-origin annotation on the controller level is working. There is one last thing I would like to cover in this video, so let's go back to our web service and I will show you the best way to configure the CORS for your Java Spring Boot application. In the first place, we will get rid of this cross-origin annotation on our item controller. And now we can create a new package. So we want to right-click, select new, and we will call it config. And in the config package, we'll have a new class, and we will call it CORS config. First of all, we want to mark it with the configuration annotation. So we go to our class and over here we want to say configuration. So Spring will create a bin for this class, and whenever it will be needed, it will be injected by the Spring. Inside our class, we want to define one method, and this method will be public, and it will return the object that will implement the web MVC configurer interface. And let's call this method get CORS configuration, like this. And before we will implement the body of our new method, first we want to mark it with the bin annotation. And thanks to that, Spring will know that it should create the bin for the object returned by this method. So later this bin can be injected whenever it's needed. I have already mentioned that we will be returning the object, so let's create it. And it will go like this. We will say return new web MVC configurer. And over here, we would like to override one of the methods from this interface. And it will be add CORS mapping with the CORS registry parameter. So let's select it and let's hit OK. So we have a new object which overrides one of the methods that comes from the interface, and also we are missing a semicolon over here. Let's implement the body of this add CORS mappings method, and we can see over here that it accepts the CORS registry object as the argument. So let's use it. We want to go over here and we want to say registry. And thanks to that registry object, now we can make a configuration of the CORS. First thing we have to specify is the mapping. So let's use the dot notation and we'll call add mapping method. And as we can see, it accepts a path pattern. And thanks to that pattern, we can specify to which paths our CORS configuration will apply. And to apply our CORS configuration to every endpoint that our service is exposing, we can say something like this, and it will be slash and double asterisk. So it will apply to every endpoint exposed by our application. And if you would like to expose only the endpoint that starts with the API, for example, we would like to do something like this. So we want to prefix it with the slash API. It will not work in our case because we don't have any path prefixed with the slash API. So let's get rid of it. After applying mapping, now we can configure other stuff. And for example, we can configure the origins. So we can go over here, we can use the dot, and we can call the allowed origins method. So for example, we can specify here multiple origins. So like in the case of the cross origin annotation, we can say HTTP localhost port 4200. And of course we can copy it and specify one more, and it can be 4201. Okay, but we will need only the one, so let's get rid of this extra one. And the next thing that we can specify are the HTTP methods which we want to allow. So we can call the allowed methods method, and now we can specify what methods will be accepted. So for example, we can say get, we can also accept post, we can also say put, and the last one will be delete. And if you don't want to specify them one by one and you want to accept each method, you can simply put asterisk over here like this. And the same applies for the allowed origins. We don't have to specify the exact host and the port. We can also simply put the asterisk over here, but we want to be more specific in this case. We can also specify the HTTP headers. In our case, we'll accept all of them. So we want to say allowed headers, and we'll simply put asterisk over here. And at the end we need a semicolon. Before we'll test it, let's extract this origin URL to the application properties, because it will be easier later to configure our application without changing the code. So we want to copy it, and we want to open resources, application properties. And over here at the bottom, you would like to specify allowed origin property, which will have the value of the localhost port 4200. And now we can go back to our CORS config, and over here using the value annotation we can say value, specify the name of the property. So it will be $ curly braces, and it will be allowed origin. We of course need to import it from the Spring framework, and we'll put it on the private string field with the name allowed origin. So now we can replace our URL with the allowed origin property. So we'll copy it and paste it over here. Now we are ready to restart our web service, and after that I will add some test data and we'll test it in the web browser. Okay, so our web service is restarted. I have added 3 entries to the items collection, and now we can refresh the page. And we can see that our CORS configuration is working because the endpoint responsible for retrieving collection of items is returning the data. And same goes for the endpoint that retrieves the item by ID. It is also returning the data, so it's all good. Okay guys, thank you for watching. This is all I have prepared for this video. I hope it will be useful for you to know how to configure CORS in your Java Spring Boot application. And of course, remember about liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. See you next time. Bye.